Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of Firebase After Hours. And today we have a very exciting topic to talk about. But before we go into it, let me first present our community guidelines. So to make it really short, you can find them here. And the key is, let's be nice to each other. You can use the live chat to send us your questions. So if you have any questions about Firebase or the topic that we're going to discuss today, please feel free to send them in the live chat. We will pick them and ask our guest your questions. And if our guest can't answer, then Nui and I will try our best at answering. But let's be polite and let's be nice to each other, and then it's going to be good fun. And with that, let me bring on my co-host, Noe. Noe, how's it going?
It's going. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm getting used to this. I had a live stream yesterday. There is a live stream today. I don't have a live stream tomorrow, so I don't know. It's going to be boring.
I mean, we can live stream tomorrow. It's fine by me.
Yeah. Why not? We just need to come up with a topic.
Oh yeah, that's always the hardest thing. I feel like I would live stream more, just like personally, if I had like more interesting things to say. But I never feel like I have that much to say. Also, you said something this morning that really got me thinking, and it was, if we ask Tyler a question that he can't answer, we'll try to answer it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some hard questions I'm ready to ask him as soon as he joins.
All right.
So, yeah, I'm ready for this.
Shall we bring him on?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here is Tyler. Hey, Tyler. You're on mute, Tyler. Tyler, you're
still on mute. It's like a modern seance, right?
Yeah.
Tyler, can you hear us? Are you there?
I can. Channeling the mediums. Hello. Good to see you all. Peter, Noe, how are you?
Yeah, great. It's good to see you, Tyler.
Thank you for having me on.
Tyler, Peter told me I got to ask a hard question as soon as you joined. Between me and Peter, who's your favorite person? Hard questions right off the bat. Let's go.
Wow, that you did. Well, you know, I thought we were going to start with a hard product question. I was teed up. I was ready to go, and that's a tough question. I love the two of you very dearly. It's a pretty big toss-up. I do wish, Peter, I could see you more often. We're not in the same location, so yeah. I do get to annoy Noe more often. So love unclear, but the two of you have equal places in my heart.
And actually, I think the last time I saw you in person, that must have been before the pandemic, right? So I remember that did we even meet in person? I know we were trying to meet in the Google office in Mountain View, and it didn't work out, right? Because it was already at the start of the pandemic.
It was right around that time. It is crazy. We have never met in person, and it's been years.
No, I know for a fact you two have met in person. I think somewhere I have a photo of you two in 2022 at Fire Summit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
True. Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't that many of us there, so I doubt you two were like actively avoiding each other,
I would take one look and then just sneak away.
So speaking of favorites, so here's another thing that we ask most of our guests. So what's your favorite, tabs versus spaces, and then how many of them?
Oh, that is an excellent question. I am spaces, but I have my tab default to spaces in my IDE. And this is going to be embarrassing because I said it forever ago. I think it's 4. I'm 4 spaces.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
Yeah, it's like very vanilla. I'm not very exciting. Sorry.
Yeah. So the weird thing is, I seem to remember a time when I used to be a Java developer, and I think I used 3 spaces to indent. But it feels weird, right? So you know, maybe my memory is playing tricks on me. But yeah, these days it's 2 spaces. What about you?
A Fibonacci sequence. So every time I indent a line, I just go, the extra. That way,
to keep you from indenting too much.
Yeah, exactly. That way, it's not super nested.
Code reviewers must love you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we're not just here to joke around about spaces and stuff like that, but to talk about a product. And we want to talk about Firebase Data Connect. And maybe we can start off, Tyler, by you telling us and the audience what Firebase Data Connect is. Maybe we can start with the elevator pitch, and then we can dig deeper into the specifics.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd be happy to. I actually brought along a couple slides with me. So
yeah,
if you guys would be so kind to let me show some of those slides, I can show them to everyone.
So I think it's interesting that you asked for an elevator pitch, and Tyler's the guy that brings a projector into the elevator with him to show the slides.
Well, it can be a pocket projector.
You would be amazed at how small they can make them these days. The carrying around the screen, it's a little bit tougher. People think it's an umbrella, but you make do. But let's talk a little bit about Data Connect. For folks who don't know, I've been at Firebase for a long time, as Peter kind of alluded to, and it has been. I have always had people asking me, even when I didn't work on databases and used to work on security, when are you going to bring us SQL and Firebase? And that is what we set out to do with Data Connect. Data Connect went to public preview in October, and it is our offering that allows you to connect your apps to Cloud SQL for Postgres. And what that means is we wanted to bring everything that's great about building an app with Firebase, like your real-time database and your Firestore experience, but with a SQL database and everything that is great about relational databases to bring that along with it. So the way the product works is that you take your app instance that talks in GraphQL with queries and mutations to Data Connect. It's got built-in authentication and authorization with Firebase Auth, and that talks to Cloud SQL under the hood in SQL, and that's how you power your application with data. And it's a little bit different than our past products like Firestore and real-time database, but we wanted to build it out so it could evolve and grow with you as you take your app from idea all the way out to the next billion users. And so we
Can I inject right there, Tyler?
Yeah.
So when you said GraphQL, so maybe we can talk about GraphQL a little bit later on and what it is exactly. But I think one of the questions a lot of people might have is, if I have a SQL database somewhere, why can't I directly access the database from my client just like I do for Firestore, for example? Why is there this GraphQL layer, and do I have to learn it?
So that is a great question. And there's a couple of different reasons why we chose GraphQL. Now, SQL in and of itself is an amazing language and is super, super powerful. But it's not tooled super well for direct app client access. And I think the other thing to note here is that you can write SQL if you want to. You could write your whole product surface in SQL if that was what you wanted to do. Now, GraphQL is obviously what we believe is better supported, and we'll show you, I'll be able to show you what that kind of power is with the demo coming a little bit later. The other thing is you get a lot of benefits from GraphQL. In the future, we're going to allow you to federate with GraphQL to other services. So you're not just going to be talking to your Cloud SQL instance. In the future, you'll be able to talk to whatever data source you want and power all of your data within your application through the Data Connect service through really clean APIs with that GraphQL definition. So we think there's a really big benefit long-term for building out a larger app. Now, about learning GraphQL, yes, right now, we encourage you to learn GraphQL. We think it's going to make you way more efficient, and you can always jump back out into SQL if you want to. I think the other thing is with GraphQL, we actually have built a Gemini assistance experience where you can actually just ask Gemini to write your GraphQL for you. Now, it's not perfect yet. It's still in preview. But if you want to kind of get deep into hit the ground running, this way you can just speak in natural language and it'll translate into GraphQL, and that'll at least get you on your feet and get you going.
Sounds great. So there's we have a question from somebody on the stream. Here we are. Are you able to directly query your database in a cloud function, for example, using something like Drizzle or plain MySQL node module?
Yeah, you can. And one of the great things is that under the hood here, right, you just have a Cloud SQL instance that's provisioned on Google Cloud. We actually worked with them to build out a specialized free trial just for Firebase customers. So it's no cost, and you'll be able to directly access it in a way you'd access a standard Cloud SQL instance through Google Cloud, whether that be through a Cloud Function, Cloud Run, whatever the way you'd like to connect to it, you can still do that. So Data Connect, we think, will make it really fast for you to build with your app. But if you want to access it in a more traditional manner, it is just a Cloud SQL database that you can, bash on to your heart's content.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I think there was a follow-on question to that. Can you bring this on, Noe? Or do you need a separate database instance? Yeah, thanks.
You don't need a separate database instance. So yeah, so this is the database instance itself is just connected to Data Connect, and we basically wire up all the connections under the hood for you. So if you go to Data Connect and provision the product, you'll actually be able to use the database will actually get provisioned automatically, and then when you go to Google Cloud Pantheon, the console experience, you can go manage that Cloud SQL instance just like you would any other Cloud SQL instance.
And then there's one more from Mark about Enums as column data type.
That is a great question. Enums have been something that we've been working on delivering in GraphQL. We know that a lot of folks in our gated preview and in our public preview have been asking for it, and it's something that we're hard at work and we're hoping we can deliver soon. Well, one of the things we've been doing is we've been releasing blogs as the product has continued to evolve. And so keep your eyes out on the Firebase blog, as we'll be announcing those updates for when support like Enums will come out. So I think, no promises, but it should be soon.
Cool. All right. Sorry for sidetracking you. I think we can go back to the slides.
No, this is perfect. I love getting sidetracked, and definitely interrupt me. And the best part is you'll be able to interrupt me in the demo too. So you can ask me to, try something else in the demo, and we'll see how good I am at ad-libbing on the fly.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Looking forward to it.
So we actually built Data Connect on a single principle. You write the query, we do the rest. And so what does that mean? When you craft a query with Data Connect, you get a secure API endpoint that has built-in authentication and authorization. We'll actually generate type-safe client-side SDKs that match to that API endpoint, so you can call it really easily. And we'll generate tool definitions, which you can think of as basically SDKs for an LLM to call into your database. So if you want an agent to be able to talk to your database and extract data to give relevant results about something that's in your database, you can do that with tool definitions as well. Now, we call this query-defined infrastructure. And Michael Bly, who many of you folks may be aware of, our big TL at Firebase, is the one who came up with this concept. So what we're looking at here is this type definition is the schema. and a query, right? You'll notice here that auth is built in, and you query and you return some objects. Now, this is just the basis, the GraphQL that you write, your schema and your query, and we'll generate the underlying DDL to create that table. We'll generate that API so you can call directly into it, and we'll generate type-safe client-side SDKs that allow you to call it with a single line. So we make it really, really, really easy. The goal here is to make it really, really easy to build your app while also giving you something that's extensible. One of the other things that we've built into the product is retrieval augmented generation, which we're really excited about. Now, the normal way you do RAG is before doing RAG, you give a prompt to an AI, and the AI responds based on what it's been trained on. Now, if you wanted to give a response about what's in your database, you need to use retrieval augmented generation. And so one of the things we do with Data Connect is we've made it really easy to do a vector search on that prompt to get the relevant results. And so that way you can pass in the results from your database through Data Connect, as well as the prompt to your AI to give you an output that it has some type of meaning based on what's in your database. It's basically a way to prevent hallucinations and ground your AI in the reality. So now that we've covered all those pieces, let's go take a look at a demo. So we're going to switch to full screen
Tyler,
here. Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you again because we have a few more questions that came in. And one of these pulls at my heartstrings. So Postgres has something called PostGIS that does geoqueries. And
Yes.
We had a question about full text search and geoqueries. Where's Data Connect land on that?
Those are also good questions. Now, our team is actively working on full text search, and geoqueries will follow after that. We have heard lots of feedback from the community that full text search and geoqueries are something that folks are really want to unlock a lot more potential in their apps, and it's something our team is making sure that we're focusing on. So keep your eyes peeled.
And Michael Bly is also listening in, so
oh,
just
now I'm in the hot seat.
And then what about stored procedures or triggers in SQL?
Yeah, so you can still use stored procedures in your underlying SQL database. That works just as it would normally. If you want to, right now you don't orchestrate them from Data Connect, but if you want to do a stored procedure based on some data that gets written by Data Connect, that should all work. If it doesn't, come bang on my door and tell me something's wrong. I think we had some early testing there, but we haven't had a lot of feedback on stored procedure issues. So right now for us, the folks who have tried it have it working. Okay. Noe, are there any more questions that you can put me on the hot seat for? I'm ready.
Yeah, one more just came in as soon as you asked. Could we also get this with Firestore? I think you mentioned this earlier in the stream that you wanted to use Data Connect with more data backends, right? So not just Postgres, but also Firestore and maybe Spanner, right? And then with the new vector indices, it seems like full text is closer. Geo is pretty much there with multi-range queries.
So let me.
Yeah. And I think this is in reference to Firestore. Sorry, Tyler, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Let me make sure I answer all the questions there. So I heard data sources, Firestore, and geo queries and full text search.
I think those are in Firestore as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so with the Firestore, lots of people have been asking us for connecting Data Connect to Firestore. We hear you. That one's probably a little bit further out, but we are really excited to partner with those folks. I still talk to their product folks and their engineers on a weekly basis. And so we're in lockstep. And as we build both of the products, Data Connect and Firestore, as they continue to evolve, we'll make sure that there's a story where you can have Data Connect connecting to Firestore as your backend. That one's probably a little bit further out as we're still focusing on really honing in that SQL experience, but keep your eyes peeled for later this year or early next year. And in terms of geo search and full text search on Firestore, I think that's going to be one you'll have to talk to the Firestore folks on. I don't think I'm allowed to go shoot from the hip for those folks, but I can check there and I can follow up.
Yeah, maybe we can bring Firestore onto the stream in one of the next episodes. So folks, if you would like us to bring on the Firestore team, let us know in the comments to the video or on the chat, and then we'll bring them on, and then we can grill them.
I would love to see that one.
Me too.
Okay. Well, if we've covered all the questions, I'm gonna switch to demo mode. You're gonna get
let's
demo
go
time.
to demo for a bit.
Let's
and then
do
we'll
it. Yeah, there are more questions, but let's first do the demo. I think that will answer a lot of the questions as well.
Perfect. All right. So I'm switching. All right. So I'm going to give folks a little sneak preview. We are looking at friendly movies, right? And this is actually a web app that you can go try on your own. So everything you see here today, you can go spin up a test project and literally use yourself within a half hour to an hour. So we are building a movie review app. That's what this web app is. And this is our schema. So you'll notice here, right, in our Data Connect page in Firebase, make this a little bit bigger, that we've got movies as one of the core entities. You'll notice like we have metadata and reviews and favorite movies and actors that play in movies, right? And actors themselves that are all kind of interlinked within our schema here. And we also have users, right? So you can log in and you can like movies, you can review them. And so that's the way this application works. Now, because I'm in my backend and I'm one of the developers who's built this app, I can go check out the data in my database. So I can click View Data, and this will switch me over to my Data tab from the Schema tab. And I'll be able to see a query that will basically execute and show me all the movies within my database. So I can run this, and you'll notice I've got my JSON output of the blob that was described here by movies. And I've got a big number of them. And you'll notice I actually deleted description embedding because embeddings are really, really big. And we'll get to that in a little bit with vector search and Vertex AI. Now, I'm actually going to copy one of these IDs, and here we go. We can also, as I mentioned before, you can use Gemini to help you craft queries, right? So let's see if we can find movies with rating. Scale is on from 0 to 10. So let's go look at movies with ratings above 9. So Gemini will take your natural language query, and it should turn it into a query. So here we go. Movies with ratings, our auth level is public. Movies with the rating is good. Okay, let's insert it. And I can just execute this here. And this is, I have no movies with a rating of 9. Okay, let's see if we have some with a rating of 8. Let's try that one more. And so you notice here in this query, right, this is a query. The definition is public. So if I decided to save this, it would allow any customer to come in and access this. And it's querying from the movies table where the rating is greater than 8. And I've got an ID, title, and rating there. So now, there we go. Okay, we have lots of movies that are rated 8 and above. The Lone Outlaw, Eclipse of Destiny. Now, one of the things that we talked about was that you actually save your queries in Data Connect. And we can see that here in this Operations tab. So this Operations tab, we can go look at, where's my favorite one? Get movie by ID. So this will actually let us look at the query. And you'll notice here it pulls from the movie table, it pulls from the movie metadata table, the movie actor table, the review table, and the user table. So that's quite a lot of joins to get a single movie by ID. So if we actually look at it here, you can see the movie, title, image URL, release year, but you'll see this metadata piece, and it says movie metadata is on movie. And this
Hey,
actually
Tyler,
is doing a
could you
yeah.
could you increase your font size a little bit?
Is that better?
Yeah. It's a little bit better. Yeah. There we go. It's got to be
Fantastic.
like a lot of big, so that way people in the back can read it.
I appreciate it.
I couldn't see it on my screen as well as some people in chat. So
There we go. A little bit better
yeah, there
there.
we go. Thank you. That's way
Nice
better.
and big. All right, we're gonna have to increase the size when we hop into my local development as well. So you'll notice here, right? This is public, right? Because you don't have to be logged in order to check out the movies in our database. And this is fully integrated with Firebase auth tokens. This metadata actually does a join and pulls the director from the movie metadata for this movie. We also join using movies via movie actor, where the role is main and supporting. And this will pull the main actors and supporting actors. And then finally, we can also pull the reviews that are associated with that movie. Now, if we want to go, run it, we can give it a go, and it'll take us, oh, wow, okay. It'll take us over into this data view that we were looking at before. So we can, and one of the things you'll notice here is we actually need to put in a user ID in order to run this query. So I pulled one earlier, and I can drop in the variable. So here's an ID for one of the movies we saw earlier, and I can run this as unauthenticated, right? I can imitate someone, or I could run it as an admin, which will override the authentication security. So we'll run as unauthenticated, and we'll run this get movie by ID. And if we scroll down, we'll see get movie by ID succeeded. Fantastic. So we were able to pull the lone outlaw, which matched that ID tag that we pulled in. You can actually see your what query was executed, what variables were there, and the authentication level for that run. And this pulled the main actors, the supporting actors, as well as the reviews associated with this movie, which is really great, right? So let's go take a look at what that looks like in my app, right? If I click on this, that one query is going to load this whole page, which is awesome. We also have a movie similarity search that executes a secondary query, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So that's kind of the core of our service. But we've also built a lot of tools for you to run things locally. So this is my VS Code, and I'm going to have to make this bigger, I believe. Noe, tell me when it's the right size.
I think one more up. As painful as it might be for you, just one more. There you go.
All right. My navigation is going to be a little less optimal than usual. But one of the things you should notice here is that, right, here's the get movie by ID, same one we were just looking at. You'll notice on the left side here, we actually have our Data Connect extension that is specialized for running Data Connect through VS Code and helping you craft and write your queries. Now, you'll notice here I've started the emulators. So I actually have a local version of my app running. And you'll notice there's no data in there yet because I just started it up and we haven't added any data to the database yet. I can clear, I can export data, I can even deploy my app to production from here, or I can figure out how to generate my SDKs for my client-side app. Now, you'll notice here in my Get Movie ID, we actually have these things called code lenses that are populated by our extension as well. So similar to what you just saw in the console on the web, we can actually go to Data Connect execution. We can do the same thing here and run this query against production from our VS Code instance. So if I click run production, it's running get movie by ID, and we will have the results down here in this pane, right? Metadata, supporting actors. Let's see, is this the same one? Yeah, lone outlaw. Perfect. So you can also run it locally. So this is a great way for you to iterate quickly and test with your GraphQL here. Now, let's pull this down so folks can see. So now that we've run local and run in production, one of the things we can go do is we can populate the data inside. So here is a big mutation that will go insert all the data from my database. I can click run local, and it will execute against my local instance. So if I go refresh this now, oh, at least technical difficulties. It's always one of the things you get with a live demo. Oh, it was unhappy with this. Let's see what happened. Oh, not supposed to have variables when I'm running this. Okay. There we go. All right, let's see. Live demo, success. All right, so you'll notice that we've now populated all of these movies. And these are not real movies. These actually were all generated by Gemini. So these were all the images, the descriptions, all of these fake movies were created by Gemini, which I think is really cool. So we are going to go back into VS Code. And right, you'll notice now that we've got our data there. One of the other things we talked about was vector search and RAG. Now, we're actually going to insert something else to our movies, and this is a second one. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to insert embeddings. So what that means here is we've created these things called server values. So this underscore embed will actually call Vertex AI. You define the model, and then you define what object you want to go in. So these are actually the descriptions from all of the movies that we just populated. And we're going to generate embeddings using Gecko003 from Vertex AI and stick it into our database. And this is all you need to do, right? A single mutation makes it really easy to input these embeddings. Now,
can I inject there, Tyler? So can you talk about where this query runs? Is this something that runs on the client and the call to the model is performed from the client, or is it run on the backend?
That's a great question. So the way our queries work, and let me go back to our queries actually. So if we're looking at get movie by ID, this get movie by ID is actually saved in the Data Connect service on the backend, which is a little bit different from Firestore, right? Where you can just write whatever query you like on the client itself. And now we think there's some really good benefits here. It just means that these queries can have their own security built in right next to the query. And it means that, right, you can have strongly typed objects based on your schema. So one of the things, I'm glad you interrupted me, Peter, because one of the things I actually forgot to mention was, what does this look like in my client code? Here's my TypeScript for my app. And you'll notice here, right, get movie by ID is this function right here. And this is all, I pass in my movie ID, and I can actually look at this object. And if we look at this object here, it's a strongly typed object that's really easy to reason about, that is, looks exactly like my query that I wrote. And that's what one of the big benefits we saw here is that once you craft your query, you make it really easy to just drop into your client-side code and get going with these strongly typed objects that are easy to reason about and help prevent you from making mistakes on the client side. So yeah, go ahead, Noe.
No. I'll let you finish. I just have a few more questions I wanted to ask.
No, this is a good spot for questions. Go for it.
Okay. So we had a question. Are the queries instant like Firestore? And how much of the speed depends on the size of the query? And then I also wanted to know, because I know with Postgres and SQL databases, indexes are really important. So are indexes automatically created for us, or do we have to, specially request an index to be created for queries?
So that's a great question. Right now, is this instantaneous? So you still execute so basically we take this GraphQL query, right, with these joins, and we turn it into SQL, and that SQL is saved on our client side. So you don't have to generate the SQL every time, but we go execute that SQL on the underlying Cloud SQL Postgres instance to return the objects. As of right now, we don't have automatic indexing. It's something that our team is thinking about for the future. So if you want to speed up your queries, you can go update those indexes on the underlying Postgres instance based on the joins that you're doing or on different columns and rows. Noah, you had another question that I've already forgotten.
How much of the speed depends on size of query? I think that's actually a kind of a complicated question because it also depends on the database size as well, correct? Because everything's powered by Postgres, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it depends. Yeah, size of database matters. Indexes matter. It will be as so let me phrase it this way. Data Connect, like the service itself, shouldn't add any performance difference to what you would get just by running the raw underlying Cloud SQL instance. Now, we've made the service itself as efficient as possible. So the majority of the, all of the slowdown that you would see would be coming from the underlying Cloud SQL instance on the performance of that query. And we're actually working to try to build tools to help you optimize that performance of those underlying queries over the long term. Right now, you can use standard tools to optimize your queries for Postgres.
And Tyler, this is a live user voice request. Could we, from me, could we add like a caching layer to queries so that way, like if I query for something like the homepage a lot, can that just be cache so that way I'm not constantly hammering my database?
Yes, caching and there's the caching level and there's also real time, which is another thing that we're working on, right? It doesn't come out of the box with this one, unlike Firestore. Both of those are things our team is actively thinking about and working on to make sure that, because we know that there's going to be a lot of queries that happen really frequently that don't basically need to get updated all the time. So yes, we are actively thinking about that. And if you have not gone to Firebase User Voice, definitely request that there and upvote it. So that will be on our radar. I check that once a week. So any upvotes there will definitely get to me, as well as all the comments.
And then there's one more delayed question, and maybe you'll get to this. Migrations. How are they handled?
Yeah. That is a great question. Because you have a strongly typed schema, actually, let me pause really quick. Migrations can mean a couple of different things, right? You could say you're migrating from one database solution, like a Postgres solution, a SQL solution somewhere to another, to Postgres with Cloud SQL. You could be migrating your app serving layer with Data Connect, or you could be migrating columns, right? You want to change something that was a string to an enum, right? And all of those are different styles of migrations that you'll have to do with data. Let me give a couple of quick answers. So in terms of connecting to either an existing Cloud SQL instance or migrating, so if you want to migrate your backend database to Cloud SQL in Postgres, Cloud SQL has guides and recommendations for that. And we can share those out later for folks who want to do that. And then you can just connect Data Connect to that. If you have an existing Cloud SQL instance in Postgres, you can attach Data Connect to it and start running your queries through our Data Connect access, like through these strongly typed queries and generated SDKs. If you want to migrate, say, like data from a column to for example, switching something from a string to an enum, enum's coming soon, you would need to do a standard kind of, you can't just change it and have the database work, right? It's a standard data migration for Postgres. So I recommend following best practices there. So I think that covers all of the 3 migration options. Noe, if you can think, or Peter, if you can think of another one, let me know and I'll see I'll do my best to answer it. Okay, did that cover all of the questions?
I think we'll take a little break from questions and keep going with your demo.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. We haven't even gotten to the fun vector search yet. So recapping, we have just seen that you get this really nice, strongly typed object. This is TypeScript. You can get that for Kotlin, Flutter, and Swift. We were looking at direct queries. Yeah, there we go. We were looking at how you can insert embeddings into your data into your database by calling Vertex AI under the hood. And this underscore embed will naturally instruct Data Connect to call Vertex AI using this model. And we're piping in the descriptions for these movies. Now, you could do this on something that's called from your client as well. So like in a mutation, you could also call the underscore embed. You can also do it for queries. So if we scroll down here, we actually have a vector search using movie descriptions. So we pass in a user query, which is a string, and you'll notice here we're using the underscore embed server value again. And so we choose the same model, very important, and we we pipe in that query that came from the client-side app. Now, this underscore similarity allows us to execute a similarity search within Cloud SQL that will give us relevant results based on the query, and you can obviously tune it with the following parameters, right? Method, within, and limit. So if we jump back into our client app, what does that look like? And you'll notice here that even though I'm running this on my local emulator here in localhost, let's make this a little bigger. That did not make it any better. Even though I'm running it on my local host here, I can actually still execute this vector search because it'll talk to my Vertex AI instance in the cloud. So let's say, for example, I want to look at a sci-fi movie. I want to find some sci-fi movies with space travel. Now, we haven't done anything with the tags. We've just done the vectors, created vectors and embeddings for the descriptions of movies. And so you'll notice on the results here, right, Beyond the Horizon doesn't necessarily talk about, doesn't have the word space or travel, but because the description in the future, Earth's best pilots are sent on a mission to explore a mysterious planet beyond the solar system, right, probably has to do with space travel. And so this is one of the really nice things is that, for many, for ages, the tech industry has basically said, okay, you need to figure out a way to analyze and tag things. But you can actually just bootstrap your own search mechanism today with vector search by just creating embeddings based on these LLMs, which is really powerful, right? And you'll notice here Celestial Harmony, Quantum Paradox, all kind of related to space. Forgotten Island, maybe I need to go tune my query parameters, right? Set my strictness a little bit higher. Uncovering travel, yeah. So this is one of the great things here, right? And one of the other things we can do is if we had an AI agent, right, we could then, when you talk to the agent, you can pipe that query into a Vertex search, and then that you can give the results to that agent to give a well thought out crafted result. So this is the underlying search, and that can also power kind of AI experiences, which I think is really cool. And you can actually try this out. I would say 30 minutes to an hour setting up this code lab and get really hands-on and dig deep with it. I myself have been playing around with it on my, my hobby apps on the weekends, and it has been really cool, kind of figuring out all the cool things that you can unlock with it. So I think we've covered almost everything here. Yeah, there's a monitoring tab, and you can monitor access to your products. You'll notice here that this is this is the demo, and we've been having queries, and you can see which queries, and you can actually see the latencies here. So for folks who are concerned about performance, we give you a view in terms of operations, latency, and then network sent. So yeah, go ahead.
Tyler, I was definitely paying attention just now, but Peter wasn't. Could you mind showing us how to get to the screen again?
Yeah, sure. This is just the Firebase console. So we were here earlier looking at the schema, and we had our operations, and we had our data page where you can, it's a kind of a playground to execute queries and mutations against our production database. And then we've got a monitoring tab. And this monitoring tab, right?
Is this the same monitoring as there is under the operations? Because earlier I saw under operations you had like run and monitor when you expanded one of these fields. So like get movies by ID.
Yeah, get movie by ID.
And you scroll down.
Yep. Scroll up.
Go up.
Monitor.
Does that take you to the monitoring tab?
It will. Exactly.
Oh, okay. Does that help, Peter?
So no, you are such a gem looking out for Peter.
Yeah, thanks so much, Noe.
Yeah. Peter, I don't know what we do without him.
Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, so I think that covers our dive today in Data Connect. So I think I'm ready to get, turn the burners up even higher. Hit me with the rest of the questions.
I have one question, or let me try to recap one thing that we talked about a couple of minutes ago, just to make sure that I and people watching got this right. So it seems like the architecture for Data Connect is you have your client application, you write your GraphQL queries, and that generates the client SDK. And I also need to deploy my queries to the backend, and that will provision some endpoints there. And the actual querying happens inside those endpoints, and then my client SDK talks to those endpoints and will receive the data back from those endpoints. And because I shape my queries to return exactly the data that I need for my current screen, for example, I can finely tune that and only return the data that I actually need. So is this a correct understanding?
That's exactly right, Peter.
Okay. Cool. And that also is the reason why we're able to put authentication on all of the operations and make sure that everything is authenticated.
Yeah, and I actually see this as kind of a nice benefit, right? It's a little bit easier for me personally to reason about, I just need to secure each API endpoint and the access to it, which is a bit of a shift. And it also allows us in the future to change it so you can access more data sources under the hood and you still secure that single API endpoint for accessing all the underlying data sources that are going to power it.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, tell me about security rules.
That's a great question, Noe. So this product doesn't actually use security rules in the common sense like Firestore and real-time database. And so we actually, if we want to go look at a query, let's go pick out, let's find
maybe
one with
get current user
on it. Yeah, get current user. Okay, here we go. So you'll notice here that the auth level is user instead of public, which is what we were using for our other ones. And we're going to query from the user table, and we're going to use the key, right, we're pulling the auth UID. So this just pulls the UID out of the auth token, the Firebase auth token. And this will ensure that we get the user for the current user. And so basically, this requires that you be logged in. And then this filtering field here makes sure that it's only this user that you're getting data for. So you can reason about your security by basically using these like filtering that comes in with queries, which is really nice, right? Like where clauses, key lookups. And then because we know that you're only accessing your user, we can join to like the reviews table and the favorite movies table on using that user ID. And that will allow us to pull all of this additional information that only the user should have access to, right? Like, well, reviews are public, but the favorited movies, right, only exist for the user. And one of the things I love about this is that, right, our data is really normalized really well. And so you can just pull all this movie information. And so when you look at the current user page, right? You should only have to execute this one query instead of shooting off a bunch of requests, and it can pull all the relevant information for you using this security. So I personally think this is kind of an easier model because you can use each query as a basis for like a page that you're going to load, and then you can do kind of the security on that per page on that query itself. So
Now,
did that help answer your question, Noe?
Yeah, I believe so. So I'm assuming there's like some custom claims here that we could filter on as well. So it's not just like level user. We could have, hey, check that they are part of the Peter fan club custom claim or something like that.
You exactly can. So you see this underscore expression. This actually, you can, instead of doing a level here, you can do underscore expression, and you can do the similar thing. And you can actually write in a cell expression, which will allow you to evaluate like, right, auth dot claims, right, equals Peter's fan club, right?
Yeah.
And so that basically allows that kind of restriction there on the auth side.
Yeah, and the same for like admin users, but I think there's also the admin SDK, and then there's like the admin claim, which are two different things, right? So admin would be someone that has the service account key rather than a Firebase token, and then the admin claim would be somebody with a token that has that claim. Is that the right understanding?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So there's two access methods, as you just mentioned. The one of them that we're looking at right now is the kind of client access model where these APIs are open to the world. The other option is using like a highly privileged service account that comes with the admin SDK that should be executed in a secure context, right? Don't ever put, I strongly recommend against putting your admin SDK ever on client apps. Like that's reserved for like servers that you control, instances you control, and you actually have higher privileges. So you can actually execute arbitrary GraphQL from your admin SDK against your service and extract whatever data you like, because that's basically, we know that is you talking from a secure server, talking to Data Connect using that admin SDK. On that note, we've actually gotten a lot of requests from customers to use the admin SDK and basically impersonate a user. And what that means is I want to be able to call from a secure server context and say, hey, I'm actually this user that's come in and talked to me and pass along an auth token, and only allow access if that user has access. It's something our team is aware of and we're working on for the future.
And then I believe in the app you talked about how having like multiple different pages and loading them. Can you go over like pagination? Because I haven't seen anything that shows how I can paginate and query like the first 10 items and the next 10 items and the next 10 items. Is there like a query after, or I forget how it's done in SQL. Peter might know.
There is pagination.
Oh.
I don't think I have an example I can show you off the bat. I'd have to refer you to the docs on this one to find an example. And
could Gemini generate it for us in the data pane?
We could try. Let me see. So we can go to our data page, and let's go delete this. Sorry, I'm not used to working on the tiny screen. Okay, so let's see. Create a list all the movies in the database, but paginate it with 10 items at a time. Let's see if that gives us something we want. This is a good test.
If it doesn't, we know who to ask.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. That's right. You can use offsets.
Okay.
So let's see if this will run. Gemini is still in preview, so we're still working out some kinks. It runs the majority of the time. There you go. Lone Outlaw, Celestial Harmony, Noir Mystique. Let's actually modify this. We'll try limit 2. So this should return us the Lone Outlaw and Celestial Harmony. And if we say offset 2, see if we get the next 2. Noir Mystique, Forgotten Island. There you go.
At least time.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So right now we're using offsets. Cursor pagination is something that we are aware of, and our team is also prioritizing. So folks, if you really want cursors, go upvote it on our user voice, which hopefully Noe or Peter can link to our episode. Again, I check that all the time.
Yep, I like the user voice already.
You want to ask this one, Peter?
Yeah, so Tyler, are you ready for some hot questions about pricing?
Ooh,
so here's one. What the pricing stay as it is, or is it something that might evolve? I have a follow-up based on that answer. All right, let's see.
That is a great question. So today, the Data Connect service has a cost of $4 per million requests. So that's calls to these APIs, these queries. And we also charge for network egress, which is kind of standard for all of our cloud products here at Google, which is just the data transferred out. And it's just to cover the networking costs effectively. So the main one you should be thinking about is that $4 per million. And now that may sound like a really expensive number. I think one of the things to remember is it's actually, you may be doing a single query that may load a whole page. And a lot of folks have compared this to Firestore, where Firestore seems significantly cheaper on the face of it because it's per read, you have a lower price. I think one of the things to remember is that in order to load a page or to load a list of items, you may be reading, 10, 20, 100, 300 documents in order to power some of these experiences, which may only be a single or two queries on the through Data Connect. So it's kind of an apples and oranges comparison, especially because the data is normalized with through SQL. So not exactly the same, but one of the things to note is because you have such a magnitude smaller, you shouldn't be hitting those requests should be happening a lot less frequently than, say, the number of reads and writes to a Data Connect instance, or sorry, a Firestore instance. Peter, hit me with the next one.
Actually,
just quickly, sorry. As a follow-up to that, I know that we have the Firebase pricing overview and calculator. Is there a way how I can go into the calculator and say, okay, so here is my usage pattern and have it compute how expensive this is going to be for me?
That's a good question. I don't think that works today. And the reason why is because the Cloud SQL pricing is separate from Data Connect. So Cloud SQL, you still have to run your instance in the back end. And now right now, it's completely free to try while we're in preview. The trial will last all the way through the end of preview. And once we hit general availability, we will continue, that trial will continue for another 3 months. After that, depending on the location you selected, it'll be anywhere from like $9 to $12 a month to maintain that Cloud SQL instance. On the Data Connect side, we do have a free tier, which is, I think, 250,000 requests a month, which should allow you to continue kicking the cans with your app, kicking the tires down the road, making sure you can iterate, prototype without incurring any costs. Did I answer your question, Peter?
Yeah, mostly.
If I'm understanding your response from the previous question about pricing and 4 per million, a limit of 2 here should really be like a limit of 300 for the pagination, right?
Exactly.
They just paginate on the client. That way.
Interesting concept.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I often worry about, by putting limits and price tags on things, that people might end up working around those price plans to to stay on the free or cheap side of things, and then potentially shooting themselves into the foot by engineering solutions that are not as efficient. And that is why I often tell people, well, before you start engineering your own caching solution, maybe go and use the Firebase pricing calculator to figure out how expensive this is going to be in the first place. You might be surprised. Maybe it doesn't cost you a single dime. And you also have to keep in mind that you have to implement your caching solution yourself. You have to maintain it, and that's a cost as well, right? So rather, do some back of the envelope computing before you start diving into a potentially expensive implementation.
Yeah, or the front of envelope computing.
No, yeah, I think I understand how all your demos work now. But no, Peter, that's great advice. And we do think that there's going to be a lot of efficiency gains here that should help customers with Data Connect. That being said, if pricing still is a really big issue, right? Post on user voice about pricing, or reach out in our Discord, and right, myself as well as our the tech leads and other folks on our team all take a look at that on a regular basis. So we hear you, and we want to keep getting that feedback from you.
Here is another question. I don't know if we covered this already partially. Can we use Firebase functions for our custom queries? Can you quickly demonstrate, please? So it sounds like this is a little bit, so it can be two things, really. So one is, can I call from Cloud Functions into Data Connect? And I think we discussed this earlier. But it could also mean, can I use Firebase Cloud Functions as kind of like trigger functions that I can call into, for example, when a new record is inserted into the database?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Peter. So the answer is yes and no, and no as in not yet. But let me clarify. So number one, you do have that admin SDK, so you can use Cloud Functions to call into Data Connect to execute your GraphQL queries, just like we mentioned before. Now, when you write or when you read or when you update or delete a something using Data Connect, many customers have asked for what we call them event triggers, right? Basically, some event happened on the Data Connect side, a read, write, delete, or update. Please go execute a Cloud Function with the context that this came from, right? Like, who did it? What was the change? And like, let me go execute that context, right? That's something that Firestore has, real-time database has. Those are, I think it's like the second or third or fourth most requested feature on user voice. And we are well aware of it. It's implementing it and integrating with those triggers is not the easiest thing in the world, but it's something our team is working on right now. And we're working on design. So be on the lookout for that one later this year.
Tyler, I know I've asked you this when we got lunch one time. Any chance we can get code generation for server environments the same way we do for client-side apps?
Yes, we have also gotten this request as well, and I myself on my hobby app would have loved this. It is something where our SDK folks who work on the admin SDK, they're looking at that design right now, and so hopefully that'll be coming in the future. But yes, it's definitely something a lot of folks have asked for, and so we'll make sure to deliver it.
And then can you tell me about testing locally?
Testing locally. Yeah, that's a great question. What we saw today, let me go back to sharing my, there we go, thank you. Testing locally. This Data Connect extension. So this is VS Code, right, where I'm writing my GraphQL, where I've got my run local, run production. The emulators are actually all running here, right? So this is just under the hood, running the Firebase CLI that runs all of the emulators that I'm familiar with. So I'm running the auth emulator, the hosting emulator, the Data Connect emulator, the hub, which orchestrates all of it under the hood, and the UI. So I could actually go to the emulator UI and see what's happening on my emulators there. And then I could, clear Data Connect data. I can export emulator data or import it on startup. We actually have a way to run a bash script on emulator startup, so you can load in a bunch of data to help you dive right in to prototyping your next cool feature. You'll notice here that this is actually, I'm logged in as myself to my project, Unspoiled Recaps. So this actually does, in this local emulation, if you want to test things like vector search, you'll notice here we're not emulating Vertex AI, which it would be impressive if we could. But if you want to generate embeddings, it'll actually go talk to Vertex AI in the cloud, generate those embeddings, and then store them locally in my local Data Connect instance. And you'll notice another thing here is that Cloud SQL there's no Cloud SQL emulator. We're actually running PG Lite under the hood, which we think is awesome for the folks who made that. Shout out. And so Data Connect is actually connecting to a PG Lite instance under the hood and running all the queries through there. If you want to generate your SDKs, you have the docs here, but you can actually click Add SDK to App, and this will, okay, I'm not going to do that here since it's already working. It'll take you to your connector YAML, right? And here you'll notice here, generate my SDKs, JavaScript SDK, the name of the package, and the directory it wants to go live in. As you update your client app locally, right, you write new queries and mutations for your app, this will under the hood automatically generate those SDKs so you can prototype really quickly. Make an update here locally, write a query, it'll automatically generate the SDK, and that type, your preferred IDE should auto-complete that new generated SDK. Did that cover, hopefully that covered, oh, and then you can obviously deploy your updates to production. That's schema and queries and mutations. Hopefully that covered all of the local tools.
I've got one follow-up to that. So
yeah.
When using the Firebase emulator, for example, for auth and for Firestore, I can use command line arguments to tell the emulator to persist that to disk, and then when it starts up the next time, the data will still be there, which is useful during testing. So if I understand correctly, we store the data somewhere else locally, so in a database that we don't own ourselves. So is does this persist? Does it survive a reboot of the emulator, or will I have to repopulate the database every single time I boot up the emulator?
That's a great question, Peter. So you'll notice that someone mentioned that they use command line. So if we go look at my terminal, right, I was running my emulators. You'll notice that this is kind of a status panel. But if we go look here, yeah, okay, this is, sorry, the view here is not great right now. But you'll notice here that
zoom out while you get set up.
Yeah. So the view got kind of munged when we zoomed in. So my apologies on that one. But you'll notice this is actually just running the CLI command. This is what this VS Code extension does, and then it monitors this terminal output. So you'll notice here, right, like this looks a lot like just running the emulators locally. So you can still run the emulators from your CLI command, your favorite CLI command. And Peter, you mentioned PG Lite, that like the database that you're working in is, so it's a local instance. And when you turn it on, you will need to populate it with data. We've actually, if you go look at our documentation, there is a way to, on startup of the emulators, you can run like a bash script to load up all your data. And then on close, like you'll need to export that data to save kind of your state. As of right now, like you can kind of make that automated. But I'm pretty sure before you close, you always need to remember to save the state that you're in if you want to recover it for next time, which is not great and something that we're aware of, but it certainly is possible today to like save your state and then load it back up the next time you turn on your emulators. The emulators themselves do hot reload. So if you are making updates to your code, the emulator should pick up those changes. But if you turn them off, you'll have to save your data and then load it back up the next time you start them. And you can automate that with scripts.
Cool.
Yeah, hopefully that covered all of the questions there. Hit me with another good one.
No, you do you have another one?
I don't think so. I think.
Yeah, I think we had pretty much all of the questions covered, right?
I believe so. Though I think there's one follow-up about using Cloud SQL for Postgres connected to Cloud Functions. I believe this was in reference to event triggers for Data Connect. But if I recall correctly, there's no event arc or event trigger for Postgres. Is that the right understanding?
I don't believe so. You may be able to do something with stored procedures, but I'd have to verify with the Cloud SQL folks, as I'm not intimately familiar there. You certainly can use Cloud Functions to write to Cloud SQL and like interact with, or read and write to it. But triggering on data write, I would have to go double check. I don't believe that we have built-in event arc triggers for Cloud SQL instances today.
Gotcha. And then here's actually an interesting question that literally just came in. We have perfectly moved from SQL to NoSQL. Why would we want to go back to SQL again?
That is a great question.
Why are we going in loops, Tyler?
That's how the world is. We are going round and round and round, right? That's a great question. And to be completely honest, right, if you're happy in NoSQL, I encourage you to continue jamming away in NoSQL. There are a lot of folks that are really happy in the SQL world. And we wanted to deliver a solution that made that possible for them. And so, since I joined Firebase, which is over 6 years ago now, people have been asking for Firebase plus SQL. And so that was the goal of this project, was to deliver basically the Firebase experience of building an app with SQL. That being said, NoSQL is not going anywhere, right? If you love Firestore, a real-time database, keep banging away on that, build your best apps and grow them. It's really about choice. And that was one of the things we wanted to do here, is right, give people an option for a great Firebase solution with SQL. We already had NoSQL, and those products will continue to grow and evolve. All right. More questions,
Cool.
or are you kicking me out of here now? I'll be here all day.
I think we had all of the questions, right? Let's double check.
There's a few that came in like very under the last minute. I'll let you decide, Peter.
Yeah, let's do one or two more, and then let's wrap it up, because we're already 1 hour 15.
Yeah, somebody's got to go tend to all the work Tyler's been assigning us.
Shh.
So can I quick ask, what is better in sync, live data or flow library? I'm not sure I know what this is asking. If I had to think, this is probably Android.
Yep.
Related.
It sounds like Android.
Yeah, I haven't done Android in several years professionally. And Marina and Rosario are not on stream with us.
No, they're not, but we can.
And I think I burned my phone a friend too, so I don't think I could just call them up anymore. It's kind of late there.
We'll ask them and then post the answer on in the comments.
Cool. And then, is there a way to sync Firestore and Postgres together and use them as one?
Yeah, so we've gotten this question actually a lot from customers, right? It's like, I want to run a hybrid deployment of Data Connect with Postgres and Firestore. There's a couple different, so when folks have asked me how they were thinking of building it, there've been I think I've heard maybe 6 or 7 different ways they've thought about instrumenting their app to talk to Firestore to talk to Data Connect, and then connecting to that underlying Postgres instance. We are looking at making Data Connect be able to connect to Firestore itself, so you can serve data from both your Cloud SQL instance and your Firestore instance. That'll come kind of later in the future. In terms of running an app that talks to both of them, just straight to Firestore in the kind of standard way that folks are used to, as well as the new Postgres instance with Data Connect, I think I'd need a little bit more information on that one, unfortunately. So if you have, I think there's I don't know if you guys have the link to our Discord, but you can actually ask a more detailed question there, and we'll be able to kind of dive into your specific problem to get a better understanding of what that might look like running both Data Connect with Postgres and Firestore.
All right, one last question, and I think we got to cut it. Will we get more language support in Firebase Cloud Functions other than JavaScript and Python? And the answer to that is I actually don't know. But our first live stream video that me and Peter did on this channel, we actually did Go functions using cloud primitives. So it is possible. It's just playing on hard mode. So it's up to you how much challenge you want to bring into your life to make that work correctly. But it does work, right? So I think, and me and Rosario actually did a video using Java or Kotlin as well for Cloud Functions. So we did like Go, Java, and those were the two big ones. So I don't know about more language support, but I hope so. Anywho, I think that's all we have time for.
Yep. So let's see if I can maybe quickly show the data, the user voice thing. And let's bring this into the stream.
That's it.
Oh, there we are. So if people want to go and submit their feature requests, they can use the user voice that we've set up. I've posted the link into the chat a couple of times. We will also post it into the video description after the recording, so to make it easier for people to find it. Yeah, I think that should be about it. All right. What's let's give Tyler the last words for the product. So what should people be looking forward to in the next coming weeks, Tyler?
Oh, that's a great question. We have a blog post coming out in, I think, next week, if I remember correctly. And there's going to be some new query features. So you can, there's the new @check feature, which I'm really excited about, which will let you query another table to authorize queries going somewhere else in the database. It's something that a lot of our customers have been asking for a while. But we have a good slate of announcements coming. I won't spoil any of the major stuff that will be coming in a couple of months, but let's just say there's a lot more updates coming to the product, and we're going to keep that momentum going throughout the year. I've told my team that I want to be announcing new features to the rest of the world every 2 months, and so hopefully we can stick on that schedule. But we are really heads down trying to build this out for folks. And so if you try the product, come give us feedback. User voice, we have a Discord. If you go post on like Reddit or X, like we will probably see it if you tag Firebase. So wherever you like to talk about the products that you're using, like come give us feedback. We absolutely love it because we want to just make an amazing product that will help you build amazing apps. And yeah, so when you build the next coolest app, right, and with vector search and RAG and agents, tell us about it. We want to hear about it.
And then
Awesome.
Tyler, could we get a link to the Discord to just post in the comment section?
Yeah,
watch the
let's
videos.
Yes.
post all the links that we mentioned into the video description to make it easier for people to look it up after the stream. So check the video description in about an hour or so if you're on the stream now, and if you're watching the recording, it should be in the description already. Amazing. Thank you so much, Tyler. I think that was great, and people loved it. So I saw a bunch of really positive comments come in. People said thank you so much. So that was great. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute treat. Hopefully, I've earned a ticket to come back at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, you said in 2 months,
every other month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, anytime you take me, I'll be here.
Perfect. Great. Awesome. All right. Noe, any last words from you?
No.
No? All right.
Is no my last word?
So somebody asked when's the next one gonna be? We're trying to run these on a monthly basis. And if we come up with a good idea for something to hack on, and I can convince Noe to join me, we'll maybe run them on a fortnightly basis. That's bi-weekly.
Oh, I thought it was where we would play a video game on stream, but no. Not gonna.
All right, cool. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Noe. And everybody, enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are on the planet. And tell us about all the amazing things that you do with Firebase. Bye.
Cool. See y'all. Bye-bye.